Hello and welcome to the show. Now, one of the most common frustrations I've heard with other property sources and deal packages and people that are generally trading properties is that it seems that it's getting harder and harder to find really good deals. And on this channel, we're dedicated to helping investors just like you go further, faster on your property investment journey. And today's special guest and client has been with us for a couple of weeks now, and we thought we'd interview them because they're getting some amazing results, and we thought, why not share it with the rest of the group? So without further ado, would you care to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I'm Emma Francis, and my wife Kate and I have sort of gone full time into property probably about 6 months ago, and we started sourcing, and the truth is, exactly as you said, Azu, very difficult to find good deals, mainly because everything is on market and everybody can see it, and when we heard about your offering, we thought this was a great opportunity for two reasons. One was the potential of getting off-market deals, but also being the age that we aren't brilliant with social media, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to learn about how it works and how we could advertise and push ourselves forward and create new leads.
Well, oh, first, nice. So I think I'll start with my first kind of question. Thank you for the intro. Is you're saying that your investment strategy at the moment is generally sourcing. So before coming to us, then, and you're saying you were sort of struggling before. So before coming to us, what were some of the ways that you were finding deals or sourcing? What were some of the things you were doing before?
Well, it feels embarrassing to say now, but literally just trawling through Rightmove and Zoopla and hoping to spot something that looked good. And sometimes we did, but it was still very difficult to negotiate and see where we were with it. And of course, when property is on market as well, there's always a chance that somebody could come in and gazump you effectively. And the truth is, until we started with lead Tidal, we actually sold nothing.
Okay, so you were looking on Rightmove. You weren't able to get any deals. On average, just give us a sort of general sense of where you were. How many properties were you looking at? How many were you sort of trying to make offers on before?
Probably looking, there's two of us, we're probably looking at 20 per day. And yeah, and I think maybe a lot of things were overpriced, and maybe that's the market that we live in, where that's exactly what estate agents do. And, good for them. They're trying to represent their clients as best they can. But, there's a lack of reality as to what's potentially available. The other thing we did was look at auctions, but auctions are very difficult because, of course, you've got to be quick and you've got to have the cash ready to go. And, you don't know what kind of potential nasties you could be buying when you're buying an auction property. So this research on that is quite heavy.
I always say that the thing with auctions is you're looking and you generally will go there. You're looking for that one property. You've seen it maybe in the auction pack beforehand, and you go there and you sit through and you're waiting for the people for them to get to your lot, and then you find yourself bidding against someone who's really bidding with their heart rather than their head. So you're looking at it as an investor, looking, right, I need it to be at this sort of price for it to be financially viable. And that other person's like, I ain't going to let him win. And and then it's like nip and tuck before all of a sudden they've overpaid for a property because maybe it's their forever home, or maybe they're a builder themselves, so they can get things done a lot cheaper than you
Yeah.
and I could. So I've always found that challenging at auctions. Not that it doesn't work, but definitely found it challenging myself. Okay, so you're looking at over 100 properties a week, and were you making offers on all of those, or what
I
was happening
know,
there?
probably making offers on about 15. Excuse me, about 15 of them maybe. And then, struggling to get to a point where they would agree, a figure, and, trying to negotiate and trying to make sure that, because at the end of the day, similar to an auction, you don't want to overpay for something. If you've done a good job of what is going to cost to refurbish that property, it makes no sense to spend more than the value of the GDV final value. And even then, you've got to make something. There's got to be value in it, and so looking at the BRR strategy more recently with the leads that we have been generating, that seems to be an area that we've started to find a little bit more success with. And I think what we've realized as well is that the deals, you don't find deals. I think you have to you create the deal effectively, and you've got to look at every deal in a different way. And I think that's what, you brought to us, Azu, and that's what the whole course has brought to us is, if you look at it with a slightly different eyes, then, you might come up with a property that we were looking at 6 months ago. We may go in a little bit higher because we've got a plan as to why that makes a lot more sense.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. I always say to people, a source, like the biggest mistake, well, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make is that they'll go out there and they'll try and find, this BMV, right? Below market value. They're trying to find a property at a discount. So they're trying to go in and find a property and do it BMV, buy it below market value. So it's all about the property, the property, the property. But what I always try and say to people is, like, take a step back and understand that at its heart, property is a people business, and the majority of the properties out there are being sold by people that want the maximum amount of money in the shortest amount of time frame. Whereas us as investors, what we're really looking for is that needle in a haystack, whereby you've got someone who's got a problem and there's a burning, genuine desire to get the problem solved. So maybe money isn't necessarily the driving motivator. So if we can find that motivated seller, then we can start negotiating on either price or on terms. And then if we come to prescribe them a solution, we can dip into our toolbox of strategies and pull out the right thing for them. Whereas a lot of people are looking at, I've got to get it BMV so I can buy, refurbish, refinance, and pull all my money out. You're able to look at it as and say, well, maybe I can use a different strategy that allow me to increase the rental income or increase the profit that I can get from this particular property. So I like that. I definitely like that strategy. So I'd ask you then, when you heard about, this crazy guy online with these direct-to-vendor strategies, banging on about AI and all this systems and technology and stuff, what was your biggest skepticism or hesitation before deciding to come and work with us?
Yeah, it's a difficult game for, what property trainers or products are out there. I know the competition is really heavy, so it is about standing out. And for us, as you stood out in terms of what your product was able to deliver, and as I say, we are of an age where social media hasn't really been our thing. But we realise we live in a world where it's a crucial part of what we're trying to achieve in property.
Mm. So you're saying something stood out. Was there anything in particular, one or two things or anything at all?
Well, firstly, your energy and your belief in the product, and that if you're willing, I think as well, sourcing with the zoo. If you're willing to put your name on something and relating to it, it means you believe in what you're trying to achieve. And that speaks volumes for me, rather than being hidden behind a corporate body. And that was great. And I showed my wife, and she had a look, and I'd say she was possibly a little bit more skeptical than me, but mainly because we were talking about social media. But certainly when we started getting into it and starting to understand how the system worked in line with social media, I mean, for somebody who is a technophobe in reality like me, and for me to be able to do something like this now, and for my wife to do it and do it pretty easily, it's great. The system is set up for that.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's quite interesting you say that, because there's two things. One, like anyone I meet at business events, they always tell me, don't stick your name on there, have the brand, blah, blah, blah. I thought, do you know what? Yes, I've got the company lead Tidal and stuff, but actually the front-facing thing is my stamp, my name. So yeah, I was quite pleased to go with that and do that. So it's nice to hear that that was one of the things that did it for you. And then the other thing is, when I start talking about technology, because I think I was like one of the first people, I've shown my age now, but one of the first people in my street to have a computer in the house, because my dad he was a professor at the university, so they gave him an IBM PC, right? So they gave him this IBM PC, and this is the days when you had to use MS-DOS to load up Windows, and you had to kind of do all that kind of stuff as well. So I got into computing from a really, really young age, and from there I went on and became a software engineer and all that kind of stuff. So I've been in computing my whole life. So to me, a lot of this stuff is like my first language. So when I'm out there talking to people and telling people in lockdown, oh, you could do this, you could do that, and they're all looking at me like I've got two heads and things like that, and you start to realize, oh, actually, this is my first language, but it's not for you. So I was meeting a lot of people, they're in a similar boat to yourself, saying that they're like technophobes or they're a bit unsure and things like that. So how come you were able to get over the hump of, I'm not a software engineer like Azuri type of thing, but at the same time, like I know how to turn a phone on and send an email. Like, how did you get over that kind of technical hump?
Well, it's the video guidance that are in place. There's always a reference point. And for example, to put a Facebook ad out, I've had to do it, 3 times, just making sure, checking your video on it as I go along. By now, I can do it by myself without needing to look at it. But
Nice.
I'm sure there are some techies who could do it after looking at it the first time. But also the weekly guidance that we have from you and going through it, and not just the technology, but also the discussion about what we're trying to achieve as well. So what this is a tool, but actually the guidance in terms of what you're giving us as to how to go about these things adds a lot of value. And I have to say that the community is fantastic as well. When you're in a group of a small number of people in reality, because there's not a huge amount in different groups, you get to know each other quite well, and we correspond with each other, and we know each other's pain. We know and understand the roller coaster that we're on. And in some ways, I don't want to. You probably don't want me to say this, but sourcing isn't easy. But certainly, lead Tidal tool makes it a lot easier.
And you know what? I think, I don't mind. I'm free. You say whatever you like, but I think that if you go online and you look at your social media, so you're scrolling through your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed, and you're seeing all these amazing deals. I made 100 grand, 30 grand, 20 grand. I just flipped this thing. Or you sit back and you watch Homes Under the Hammer and you think, well, they just didn't even look at the property. They turned up at auction, bid, turned it around, they've made like 30, 40 grand type of thing. And it does make it look quite easy, but it's the doing of the thing that is the challenge, and then having that community where you have that peer-to-peer learning. Because I'll be the first to admit, every day's a school day for me as well. I don't have all of the answers all of the time, but luckily when you're in a network of like ours and my extended network, we can actually work together, figure out the answers and help each other and pull each other up. I think someone told me recently, it's like when you get into these groups, it's like one hand up and one hand down. So you've got one hand up trying to get some help, but you've got to have one hand down to pull the next person up with you. Because I see this a lot online when I'm doing my marketing for my master classes and workshops, and everyone's like, oh, if it's so good, why don't you keep it all to yourself and blah, blah, blah. And you think, well, how is that one hand up, one hand down? How are you pulling someone else up? And then they'll say, oh, well, you're charging money for doing this. You're not doing it because you're altruistic. Well, yeah, because you got to separate like those that are intentional about it and those that are hobbyists. Like I can't tell you the amount of people that I speak to, and they'll say, yeah, I'm really interested in doing this. Just tell me how to do it. Da, da, da. And you show them, or you tell them, and you give them some advice, and you come back to them a few months later, and they haven't done it. And you've been with us now less than 3 months, or
about 10 weeks. Yeah, 10 weeks.
And like, well, actually, that leads to the next question, really, which was like, where are you now? Like, have you done any deals? Have you made any money at all? Like, where are you now? How's life different?
Yeah, no, I'm delighted to say that I received my first fee earlier this week.
Fantastic.
It was a £5,000 fee.
Wow.
And it's odd because I always thought when we get the first fee that we would be doing cartwheels and everything would be brilliant and all good. But actually, all it made me think was, I want the next one.
Well, hang on. I've got to do one of these. Because that's amazing. That is amazing. The fact that you've managed to get your first deal over the line and you did it in 10 weeks. So if we go back a step, you said before you were looking at about 20 offers a day type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And now, and how long had you been in property and looking for deals?
Yeah, no, probably 6 months, but
Okay.
I wouldn't say, I would say since September we've started to up the game in terms of what we're doing, and we probably, and that's why mid-November when we joined, Lee Tidal and you,
Mhm.
we were in a position where we were like, if you keep doing the same thing and you're not getting a different result, you've got to do something different, and that's
100%
and that's where
agree.
we were at, and
Mm.
ironically, we probably, believe it or not, we're doing less research, we're doing less work now, but we seem to be pinpointing better.
Yeah.
We probably we're quite quick now in finding deals that we can spot pretty quickly. That is it a goer or not, and if it's not, we just move on. And I think
Love it.
we were looking at deals that were bad deals in the past, but of course this system gives you leads. You talk into people direct. You don't have a middleman of the estate agent to go through. And as you say, it's a people game. So we talk to them, we understand their problems, and we get to know them. And obviously, it's not, you don't want their problems to become your problem, but if you can do something to help solve their problems, why not? And that's what I've started to enjoy about it. People who are retiring, who have a problem where they think, okay, I've been able to deal with managing the property portfolio, but I don't want my children to have this problem because, Doris down the road is a real problem as a tenant, or somebody else is a problem. And so, at the end of the day, if you can help, this guy that I'm currently talking to sell his property portfolio and not give that problem to his daughter, then you're in a good place. But it is about win-win-win, isn't it? He wins because he gets a solution. An investor wins because they get a good deal. I win because I would get a fee from it, and not only that, also make new friends from it as well, and and to talk to people, because, as you say, it's a people game. It's a people.
And do you know what? I love listening to you because it's such a you've got such a good attitude and outlook on stuff. I remember when you first started and you're a little bit unsure of how to do this and you're asking lots of questions. And I always encourage people, there's no such thing as a silly question, just ask away, because we're all at different stages. But I really want people to take the action. It's not just come back and ask the same question in a different way over and over again, and you've made no progress at all. You asked the questions, you went in and you did it, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure. I feel a little bit out of my comfort zone, right? And now, not only have you got your first deal, you've made your money back for what you paid of the program.
Yeah.
You have this tool that you can now basically go on and use forever. I don't know what that is a return on investment, but still, that's something that you've got the skill set and you've got the resources, the tools and stuff, so that you can do this over and over and over and over again. And I know that you put this in the group, but you were saying that in the last 4 weeks you've had how many offers accepted?
We're up to 5 now.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. So
So
that's from 20-ish a day, 100-ish a week in 3 to 6 month period. And then in the last 8 weeks, you've sold a deal with cash in the bank, and then you've got 4 or 5 offers accepted.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I think I think we are close to getting our second deal. So you're talking,
Wow.
we only sold one last week, and then it's like a buses, isn't it? None of them, and all of a sudden they all come together, and hopefully that's how we'll continue now. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what another point I keep saying to people is, like, you got to build the pipeline. Everyone always comes to me and says, well, if I join your program, how soon will I get a deal? How soon will I get a deal? And it's like, you've got to have the conversations, and you've also got to get your skill set up as well. And that takes some time. Some people get it quicker than others. I've had people do it 2 deals in a week before. I've had people come in and they've been there 12 weeks, just wrong attitude, nothing. I've had people that have tried really hard and had nothing in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and then all of a sudden come in and do like the week after, because they've had the mindset check, because they're part of the community, part of the group, had the mindset check, go out there and do a couple of, like one guy did a deal where he agreed to buy £120,000 property over a 10-year period. So he's just basically paying the person rent each month, but gets deducted off of the actual purchase price. So and he's got a tenant buyer in, he's going to do that. So he's now turned a deal into the asking price was 150. He's now got it at 120. He's now making £400 a month from his tenant buyer. And when a sale goes through in that sort of 10 years time, he'll make a £40,000 profit. So this is all things about having the right mindset and just following a process that works, and then leveraging technology to make your life a lot easier, so that you just have more and more conversations. I think too many people focus on how soon am I going to get a deal, and I do understand, because people have been burnt in the past, right? They've tried, over-promised, under-delivered. Whereas this is, the gap is, you understand, even if you're a beginner, but you still understand the strategy of what to do when you've got the property. The problem is you can't find the property in the first place.
Yeah.
So our solution helps you find the property in the first place by finding the person who owns the property, solving their problem, and then packaging it to keep for yourself, or packaging it to sell to somebody else. And out of interest, on the one that you're looking to put together through now, your second one, how much would your sourcing fee be on that? What are you looking to charge?
5,000. Yeah.
That was amazing. I've seen people charging 2,000, and here you are as a newbie getting paid £5,000, which is awesome. Fantastic. Well done.
I think what's important is when you do your numbers, if the 5,000, if your fee is irrelevant, so if your fee is effectively irrelevant, sorry, can I put the light up?
Yeah, go on.
So apologies for that. It's gone dark here. This is Wales, you know. This is Wales.
It was like, this is, shh, you're not allowed to tell the secret. Keep it to yourself.
No, if you can make the fee to be irrelevant as part of the deal, as in it's still a good deal, irrespective if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, then what's the problem? You know, there's no issue. And I think I did in the group talk about, how do you convince a first-time investor to potentially pay a sourcing fee? I have spotted that people who are more mature in this game, they understand the time and effort that goes in to finding the source, and they've got no problem with it as long as the numbers make sense.
Okay, that's a great question. Sorry to interrupt you there. Now that you pose a question, and I know I gave you a bit of a background, but now what's your thoughts? If someone were to come and they're a first-time investor, and they said to you, why on earth am I paying you a sourcing fee for something when I could just go out and find it myself, or go on Rightmove and find a deal myself? What would you say to them?
I mean, you don't want to be cheeky or rude, but I think you would welcome them to do it, because if they do it, actually they might come back later on and say, do you know, it's not that easy. And actually, you said to me that if the numbers make sense, what does it matter? And the reality is, do you get a fee of 5,000 for that one job that you do? No, you don't. You get a fee of 5,000 for the 15, projects that you've tried to attempt to and put offers in and try to get somebody to negotiate and get the right price. And there's days where you can be despondent, where we had 5 projects that we thought were brilliant, and at the right price we would have taken any one of them. And not one of them happened. And, we were disappointed, super disappointed. And then the day after then, we had, through the lead Tidal system, we had 3 off-market properties. All of them look good. We've had, one of them was the one I mentioned, the retiree. Another one is a guy who's thought he could build a house by himself without any builders and any proper permission. And he's in a bit of trouble. And he needs to sort it out. So, of course, something that I wasn't aware of before joining the scheme was assisted sale. We can assist him to get to the other side, because otherwise he's going to be struggling forever. Another one then, the lease option. I didn't know about lease options before joining. Now, even though it's not necessarily part of what Lead Tidal does, this is part of the education that we've learned through being with you and being part of the community.
Amazing. I was going to ask you, actually, if there was one golden nugget, you can have more, but if there's one golden nugget key takeaway that you've got from being in the program, working with B, using the system and software, what would that be?
I think it goes back to something I said earlier. You don't find a deal, you create the deal. And if you understand the strategies available to you, these people that I'm talking to now, number one, I wouldn't have found them without Lee Tidal. Right, now that I found them, had I not been part of this group, I would, apart from saying, what's the cheapest price you can give me, I wouldn't know what to say. So now I can take part in a conversation, be quite confident in what I believe in and what I'm trying to achieve with them, and also try and solve a problem at the same time. And yeah, and it doesn't work every time, because at the end of the day, they have to be pragmatic about the reality of what they're going to get. And even the three that I'm talking to, of course, is positive at the moment, but they're not all going to come off. And I think the other thing as well is I think what I've learned is, and every no that you get, you're closer to a yes.
100%. 100%. And how does this compare? So using the methodology I'm showing you, the software that you've got access to, how does this compare to what you were doing before? How's your life different? How has this impacted your life or changed your life or will change your life in the future?
I think we were a bit like rabbit in headlights in reality. I think we liked the concept and idea of not working 9 till 5. Well, no, that's not true. Not working for somebody else 9 till 5, sorry. And, having the flexibility of doing what we can do and still sustaining a good life. And, certainly, from a personal perspective, my children, or our children are 15 and 12. The eldest is now doing GCSEs. The job that I was doing was hugely stressful. I wouldn't have been able to try the job that I had. I wasn't able to do this as a sideline. I'm either all in or all out. Some people are in a more fortunate position where they can balance it a bit better, and that works for them. But the type of role that I was in, that wasn't viable. And all of a sudden now, I see my children all the time. I can be a taxi driver all the time. And as well, their actually schoolwork is better because we're talking to them about it, and we have the time to assist them, and that's made a difference, to our life and our lifestyle, and hopefully, the trajectory that we are on, we will be generating enough income from doing this, and we won't be able to go back to working 9 till 5.
You're becoming unemployable. I love it. And if there's anything at all that you need help, support, questions, whatever, obviously I'm there all the time to help you. I'll do what I can to springboard you up to the next level. And I think you said something earlier actually, which made me think of a quote by I think it's Zig Ziglar, and he said, "You can get everything you want out of life if you first help other people get what they want." So when I'm listening to you and you're saying that, like the builder you mentioned who thought he could do it himself, but then realized he needs some help. The landlord that wants to retire, doesn't want to pass on the problems to his children. These things, you're coming in and solving a problem first. And because you're helping someone else solve their problem, get what they want, now you get to reap the rewards of reciprocity, really. So it's coming back round to you, and you're able to spend more time with people that you love and you care about, being the chauffeur, taxi driver for your kids, where they're going to go here, there, and everywhere. And yeah, that quality time with family is so important because you blink and suddenly she's no longer doing her GCSEs. It's whatever they call it these days, A levels. Then the next thing is, oh, I'm at uni, graduation, married, and then on and on and on. So yeah, time flies fast. So having the more time back, you're buying back your time through leveraging a tool like Lead Tidal to get the results that you want is awesome. So I just want to say two sort of questions next, I guess, would be for anyone who's listening, or let's say someone's on the fence, right? They're considering joining up or using Lead Tidal or doing some sort of coaching or consultancy or working with me or my team, but they're on the fence. What might you say to that person?
I would say I started my journey, and as I said, I felt in reality, looking back, we were rabbits in headlights, trying our best, trying to create something and almost panicking and not really having a process. And, Lead Tidal has brought us a process to us. And, I think we're getting more success. We are working hard. There's no question about it. But I think the working hard bit is about getting your pipeline in place. And once you've got a lot of different, if things are in a different phase, some of them you're just analysing, some of them you've got deals potentially agreed, some of them you're preparing the market impact, some of them you've got them out there. And it's just keeping that flow going. I think, like I made the mistake at the start where Lead Tidal was too good. It brought in 200 investors.
I remember.
And I was looking at it thinking, this is great. Just bring them in, and the cost per lead was so low. We just said, well, what am I losing? But the reality was, when I started chasing them, the first 10 were great because I was quick. But then you've got to deal with those 10, and then you've got to deal with the issues related to the 10, the properties that they have, how you're going to do it, and that takes time. So by the time I was on to my next 10, a couple were okay, that we took a week to get back, but most of them were like, well, I can't even remember sending them, putting the lead forward. And by the time you got into the third week, it was almost a blanket no. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I'm not into investing. Whereas, when they thought about it and they filled that form at that point in time, if you talk to them the next day, you were onto something because that was on their mind. 3 weeks down the road, there's something different on their mind for whatever reason. So I think, I think you've just got to be, and I think my advice to some of the students are, once you've got 10, 20, 30 leads, bag it, deal with them, qualify them, and then go again.
I love it because there's a couple of things you've mentioned there. So the first thing is people always think, I want as many as I can possibly get and I can do all these deals. You think, well, no, you need to build a pipeline first so you can then work the deals. So I'll always say to people, if you've got a budget of, 20, 30 pounds a day, just like a tap, run it for as much as you like. And then you could either turn it down or turn it off completely. Work the prospects that you've got at the moment, whether it's sellers or investors, and deal with those, and then you can move on, like you say, and do it in batches. And then the other thing is what you really hit the nail on the head: speed to lead. It's so important in this day and age that you get back to people really quickly, because if you're taking your time, like you said, difference of a week, 2 weeks of you getting back to them, they've moved on. They're not in that same headspace. So if you get someone when they've got a lot of pain, they're ready to sort it out right now, and you show up, then you can do some amazing deals. So yeah, okay. I'll ask you one last question then. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or if you could speak from the heart to someone that's watching right now, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, well, I'm an accountant by trade, right? So, and when you get down to it, we all want the best things in life. We all want our cake and eat it. But I'm being really simplistic in saying this. How do you live your best life? You live it by having enough money to do the things that you want to do with the people that you want to do it. And if you look at the average salary in the UK and you think about what that is, and I think it's sort of 35,000, 40,000 mark. Eight deals at 5,000 would do that. So if you think about it, if you get 2 deals per month for a whole year, that's 120,000. That is almost 3 times the average salary in the UK. And so it's worth the work, it's worth the effort. And certainly when you start seeing, it's from zero to hero. We had 0, 0, 0, 0, and just like that, we had £5,000 in the bank and a pipeline to go with it. And that's what people want, and they speaking from the heart, you want to do what you want to do, but you've got to make your money, you've got to get your income to make that happen. And as far as I'm concerned, it's value for money, and it's definitely helped us change the way we look at our investments and how we source and how we go about it. And look, the longer term is, if we can generate enough money from sourcing, we'll of course invest in property ourselves, which of course is the longer term dream.
I love it, and I know you're going to get there from your attitude, your outlook, your work ethic. It's amazing what you're doing or have achieved, and you're doing it part time. So imagine when you get to that tipping point where you can just go all in and just say, right, I'm gonna, just like a job from 9 till 5 type of thing. I'm going to do this, but you've got the flexibility because you work for yourself to hit pause, take a break, be the taxi driver, do whatever you need to do, and then come back and do a little bit. And I always say to people, if you'll be amazed at what you can achieve if you can carve out 10 hours in a week. So whether that's 30 minutes a day and then a big block, or it's like an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. So you're doing your 10 hours Monday to Friday. You will be amazed at what you could achieve with just focus, consistent effort. 10 weeks is in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing at all.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really nothing at all. So, yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your story. I'm sure it will help a lot of other people out there that are considering. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, Lee Tidal, and what's this process that Azu's on about and what are they talking about? Then please reach out to me and I'm happy to kind of go through stuff. Better yet, we're actually doing a live and interactive masterclass where I'll walk you through the process. I'll show you what the system looks like, and you can decide if it's something that you want to be a part of. The best way to get hold of me personally is on Instagram. Just go to Sourcing with Azu. You can also find me on all social medias like TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. You'll be able to find me. But go to my masterclass, go and watch that. And get it at virtualsourcingmasterclass.com. You can register for the next class that's coming up, and you'll see exactly the system that Ems here is using to build a pipeline of deals that ultimately gives him the time and financial freedom to be able to spend more time with his family and get to a point where he can now build up his own portfolio as well. So listen, once again, Ems, thank you so much. I'll leave final words for you. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank you, Azu, for all you've done to help. I think the one thing I can say about you is you've made it comfortable for me to ask the silly questions, which is great because I don't feel silly asking them.
Brilliant stuff. Well, ask away, my friend, and we'll see everybody watching. Thank you very much. See you in the next one. Bye for now. See you.
Cheers.